who decides, frankly? Is it the chairperson of the inquiry, Baroness Hallett, or is it up to the Cabinet Office what is handed over?
I think it has to be an agreement. The public will want reassuring that the inquiry can have all relevant information. And the Cabinet Office and the ministers and senior officials involved will obviously want to make sure that details of their private lives or comments that aren't really relevant to the inquiry are protected from wider public view, because one of the problems with the WhatsApp generation is that they seem to blur private observations, bits of their private life and their public duties, and so there may well be things on the WhatsApp strand that are relevant to the inquiry, but there would also be things that people wouldn't normally want to publish more widely. So I think there is a sort of sloppiness in the way that some things were handled. What I hope it doesn't detract from is the really serious purposes of this inquiry, which should be to explore how prepared was the NHS for this kind of thing. Could you be properly prepared for it? Did they respond quickly when they saw what was happening? How good was the science? How much diversity of thought was there in the science? Did ministers have the right information coming to them to make those very difficult decisions? And I think it will be very interesting to see the details of the battle that was clearly going on, with some ministers seriously worried, as I was from the outside, about the economic damage and querying whether you needed such an intense and long lockdown, and those who were on the health side of the argument who wanted to take the safety first approach come what may, and thought it was just better to lock down everybody for as long as possible.
I'm glad you mentioned the length of the lockdown, Sir John, because Boris Johnson, as you will recall, was criticised by Labour for not closing down the economy quicker, and I thought it was actually rather noble of a Conservative Prime Minister to resist shutting down the economy, because he knew the huge damage it would do to homes, schools, businesses, and we're still picking up the bill for it today.
Well, indeed, and I think that is one of the serious issues we want to know about. Obviously, everybody with loved ones who died and got seriously ill will want to know that everything possible was done to have protected them and helped them and to treat them. There's a lot of issues about were the right medicines which were already available got to us quickly enough, and what kind of medical opinions came in about all that. But we certainly need to test the hypothesis that if we'd followed, say, the Swedish approach of bit less lockdown, less severe, would it have been worse from the health point of view, or might it have been okay?
Just one final quick question for you. Do you think there is another fair way of having the inquiry without releasing all the WhatsApp messages?
Well, I think there should be an agreement which is satisfactory to those conducting the inquiry. As I said at the beginning, I think what they should want is to have access to all relevant information and exchanges that throw light on why we locked down and what we did about gaining medicines and how quickly we got a vaccine. But they shouldn't want to allow publication of details of people's private lives or offhand remarks under pressure, which are too exciting, but which just happen when you're working all the hours God made and you're up against something you don't properly understand. I think there needs to be some balance, but that surely is what you have somebody leading an inquiry to do. They need to show that skill, and the Cabinet Office have got to accept they have a right to see a lot of material, but there should be some kind of agreement over which material is relevant to their publication.